Welcome to the iPhoneography Podcast. My name is Greg McMillan, and we are Monday, January 26th, as we record this, live on YouTube. So welcome to anybody that's watching right now and anybody else that comes along. And let's just get things started here. We'll bring in Mr. Dwight Broman. Hey, Dwight.
Hey, guys. Hello, everyone.
And David Podner. Hi, Dave.
Hey,
Nice snowy scene behind you, Dave.
Oh, yes. That was... Actually, I think that was yesterday. When the snow was actually happening in between shovelings.
Yeah. Well, I can relate. And yeah, it's happening all over the U.S., I guess, or most of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But
a good hunk, yeah.
Yeah.
A good hunk.
A good hunk, yeah. I guess, Dwight, you're not seeing any snow down there.
No, I can't say it. I mean, it was 70 degrees today. I would actually like a little bit of snow.
Well, if we could find a way to
that would turn us upside down, though.
Yeah.
Be in bad shape.
Take, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the last show, we talked about over-sharpening, the over-sharpening that the Apple camera does, and how we're kind of not liking that vibe anymore, or not much anyway. So I mean, if you want a backstory, just go back and listen to that one or watch it on YouTube, and you'll kind of get a feel for where we're coming from with this. But I said on that show that we've got, there's more we can talk about. We just said before we went on the air here, we can go on for show after show after show with all the different apps that are available to do these certain, types of things. So we're, on the last show, we talked about no fusion. This was something that was fairly new to us, and I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. Dwight, you've got it kind of nailed down a little bit, I think. So, but it's just one app, So we're gonna bring a few more onto the table here, and let's see. One of the ones that you've introduced us to, Dwight, is called Analog. So What's that sucker all about?
It's an interesting app. So I think if you're familiar with the new technology with Apple and their video, the ability to shoot in Apple Log, you're able to do that with your camera now and then apply a color grade after. I mean, it's really simple. It's just, take your shot, and in the settings, you can either just output the log file, or you can output the log file and a one with a color grade on it, like the last one you selected. But I really like it, and I think we'll probably show some of the photos here. But what I really like about it is that it's relatively new. The developer is in a still developing this thing, and I think there's room for improvement. There is some sharing of recipes, and it makes it kind of fun. I've created my own emulations in there. One of the things that I don't like about it is that you can't back up your custom emulations, and I am discussing that with the developer right now. That's something that they're planning on doing down the road. But essentially, you have an app that will have a negative emulation, a classic negative, classic Chrome. You can apply that to your log file, and in many cases, you're done. But the editing suite below it is amazing because you can adjust all of the different tonal values. You even have white balance to where you can make it look good for the scene, and then you can actually save that as another preset. So it's really kind of fun to work with. So if you're working with 5 photos that are the same or essentially from the same scene or conditions, you can apply the best starting emulation that you have throughout the 5 or 6 choices, and then you can make your adjustments. On the first one, make it kind of go to where you want. If you don't like the way it rendered off just the standard emulation, then you just make it the way you want it, save that, and then apply it to the other ones. I'm pretty sure you can batch edit as well, but it's got a little bit of work to do. Log is a very small file, but they have a proprietary upscale process, I think, when you apply the color grade.
So when you say small file, you mean low resolution or just small in...
Just file size.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, Apple log photos to me look like they're low resolution, right?
Yeah.
We'll see one here,
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just take a look at one right here now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if anybody has seen or heard people on YouTube talk about taking video in Apple log, it looks like this. It looks like, very
Mhm.
faded, low contrast imagery. And that's what we have here basically.
Yep. Yep. So that's just how, you adjust your exposure, whatever you want to do, take the shot, and this is what you get. And it doesn't look good right now. So
But
what you would do,
what it does though is it gives you detail right across the
hmm
tonal range, right?
hmm
It like there's lots of
Yep.
detail in the shadows, lots of detail in the highlights, and that's a good place to start,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So let's go to this next one, which is the exact same file, except it's been edited, I guess, right?
I just put an emulation on that and I was done. I just wanted to show everybody how kind of that process worked. Sure, I can go in and adjust the contrast. I can go in and even adjust the white balance if I wanted. But that photo, in many cases, is just done. And it really looks similar to the scene. It's a little bit more contrasty than it looks in real life. But to me, that gives a nice analog shot.
Right.
Doesn't look over crunchy. It looks like something you might have taken with a point and shoot, years ago.
Yeah.
But
Now, Dwight,
as a guy that likes to edit, this is done. I don't
Yeah.
have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
now,
Sorry, what were you gonna say there,
Dwight, quick
Dave?
question. Yeah,
Mhm.
for the emulation you were putting on, is that one of the built-in ones they had? Because do they have like a default and then different types of simulations kind of built in for you to
Yeah,
start with instead of you trying to build it from scratch?
this is an emulation that was a default emulation. And then I can't remember if there's a no I think it has to be something, but let's just say this is classic Chrome and you didn't like it. You can modify this photo, modify the settings, and then save that as another preset. You might just call this one Mission because this is at the Mission. I might just call it Mission.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the native presets that are in there are your starting places for custom ones.
Yeah.
The only problem is if I have to reinstall the app, I'm gonna lose them all. So until they have a
Mm.
backup feature, I'm gonna have to copy, you know, all of my slider settings and put them in a folder.
Yeah, screenshots and stuff
Mhm.
galore, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
mean,
really fun, really, really simple. I think it's really an enjoyable app, and I don't think it works in all situations,
mhm.
but I think in some it's kind of fun.
And I think as seasoned iPhone photographers, the 3 of us, especially, we could tell what this would look like if it was shot with the Apple camera, and
Hmm.
you know darn well it's gonna have that when we say crunchy, a crunchy look, what we're talking about is basically it's sharpened, and we'll see other examples of what I'm talking about here coming up, but
Denoised and then sharpened on top of the denoise, which can look
yeah,
really funny at times.
yeah. I mean, it's we mentioned on the last show that the Apple camera app doesn't take a photo, it builds it because it takes a number of frames and it does this to this one, this to this one, this to this one, and it puts them all together to make a photo. Generally, they're great images. They want to they want that camera to take a picture that people would be happy with right off the bat and then be able to just
Mhm.
share it or whatever, right? I think that's what their goal is without really knowing. I think that's what it is. And for again, seasoned our iPhone photographers, people who want to take their work a little further, we want to do other things to these pictures. We want to make them look better, different. We put
Mhm.
put our own flair on it. So I think that's basically where we're at with all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like that, Apple process look. Sometimes I take it and then it's like, wow, that's really clear
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
looks really nice, and sometimes it does.
Hmm.
But I think, as you're saying, Greg, I like the flexibility of, being able to put my own artistic license into, what I see.
Oh yeah, for sure. So this is the editing UI of analog.
Yeah. Yeah. So right there, you can see, okay, the purple one and the blue one are my custom presets that I made. So if I would have selected the neutral, you can see that I have an intensity option, there's a gamma, exposure, contrast, everything else you can imagine below it, along with white balance,
The
blues
usual
and yellows,
suspects.
reds and greens. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the option to save that as a custom emulation should you make any changes to it. So it's really, really kind of fun. So you have your own, yeah, I don't know the technical term, rec something. I don't know what it is, but you're making your own color grading presets here. It's really fun. Now, I should say that this is not spelled with, it's not ANLAOG, it's GUE. Analogua is the camera app.
That's one thing I noticed when I look for it in the App Store
Mhm.
is it's that, and it's a black box with a stylized A as the
Mhm.
logo.
Now, I should say that I have a camera app problem, and I think we all know that. So I have admitted that I am powerless over new apps, and my life has been overcome by these and is unmanageable. So
Now, one other thing I want to ask, because when I brought this, in case people are interested in this, can you use it? Is there a free to use, or do you need to subscribe immediately or pay for it immediately to use it?
Dave, I don't remember.
Okay.
I think I installed this thing a long time ago and just had never used it
Okay.
because one of the developers for or one of the interfaces between the developers of No Fusion was testing this, and he was really excited about it. And
Okay.
I had already had it, so maybe one of you gentlemen can look at it on the App Store. I'm not sure what it is. I want to say $20 lifetime. I don't know. You would be able to see it, Dave.
Yeah, it is showing. Let me scroll down to the in-app purchases here. Actually, monthly is $199 US, annual is $12.99, and lifetime is $24.99.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Lifetime in Canada is $35 or $34.99.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know how much I missed there, guys. I had to change my AirPods to a different set.
No, Greg, I confessed to my app
Oh,
problem to
yeah.
everybody and
NAA?
let them know my step one that I've admitted that I have a problem.
Well, I mean, technically, you're not the only one. Okay, so we'll now that I've got my ears back, I'll carry on to the next image here. Yeah, so this is the mission again, and this was again analog, right? Oh no, sorry, now we're on to a different one. This is not boring.
Yeah, I just think we have it out of order, Greg, but I can still speak to this. This would be my second app that I've been testing, and this is called iCamera, or it's also known as Not Boring Camera. And I found that this one is really fun. It has what they call built-in LUTs, a really fun interface, and it has built-in LUT presets again. And this was just something I just took with one of the preset LUTs up using the Not Boring camera at the mission. And again, it's an analog shot. I don't remember exactly which LUT this was, but it's really kind of a fun camera to use. Now, I do know this one's expensive if you
Mhm.
wanna buy it for life. It's about $60, but it's a
I was looking at it.
it's one where you can import your own cube files. There's cube files out there that people have created that if you like them, you can purchase them and bring them in.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, we can go to the next photo if you want, Greg, to
Yeah.
see the
Okay, so
kind
yeah,
of the
so this is
interface. So
not boring camera, the UI.
this is Not Boring camera, so you can see it's pretty simple. The one times is, your lens selector. The plus is your shutter button. The wheel on the right is exposure. You can customize this thing to any color you want. You can have any color case and wheels and knobs and whatever you want. The automatic up next to the wheel on the top is where you can switch between automatic and manual. The settings button on the top is the settings, and what I like about this one is that you can shoot in Pro Raw if you want, but they also have kinda a proprietary process to where, I think it's called, I'll have to look that, but it takes out a lot of the Apple processing. I'll be able to tell you here in just a second. So, it's they call it Super Raw, and I think what it does is it brings it down to 12 megapixels because it's not a Pro Raw file anymore. It's Super Raw, which adds exposure, grain, and fast captures for natural looking photos. So this is, I believe, the mono
Mhm.
filter that's in there. The top the wheel is how you scroll through your emulation. So when you're on the scene, you just flip through them like
Oh,
that
that's
until
kinda
you find
cool.
something that you want. So
Yeah.
it's kinda fun.
Yeah.
Looks like a toy.
Yeah. So then here's your styles and your LUTs
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so this gentleman was nice enough to share his a couple of the ones, epic tutorials, and then, the standard cinematic, and there's a list below there that you can choose from by rotating the wheel on top. You can also import your own cube files, import your own LUT, give it a custom name. So it's just it's just fun, and I like what the output is. And again, I think
do you see what it is in the preview before you take the
yes,
shot? Okay.
yes. Unlike Mood, but
Yeah.
Mood has a different, and we'll talk about that later. But Mood has a different
Yeah.
reason behind it. So
MO, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so that, typical of any, film sim or emulation app, it has these different, styles and LUTs and things like that that you can work with and to work with actual cube files and everything else. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah. I wish you could batch import.
Yeah. So Photon Cam is another one. And I'm not sure how many camera apps we're actually going to talk about here, but this is another cool one.
Yeah, this is a sculpture down at Heisler Park in Laguna Beach, and I did have a Pro Raw file that I had. It looks a little soft here, but I think that's the resolution on the computer. But you can shoot in DNG with their kind of their de-sharpening pro. Let's see, it's called Hive de-sharpened. So this is the output of this, but then you can still modify it. If somebody doesn't like the softness of it, you can, in the editing suite, you can bring some contrast back or some sharpening. But this really is kind of a natural representation of the scene. Photon Cam
Mhm.
is very similar to No Fusion. I think the editing
Yeah.
suite's better. It's less expensive. I can't remember what the price is on Photon Cam, but I think it's less expensive than No Fusion. But I haven't really compared apples to apples. They're very similar for the output.
Yeah, and I found in my very limited use of these apps that Photon Camp was slightly easier to
Mhm.
stick handle around,
Yeah.
like, to navigate it and things like that. So, there's gonna be lots of choices for
Mhm.
people. It just depends on how simple or complicated you want it to be, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I will say I did look up the price for Photon Cam. It's $199 monthly, $9.99 yearly, and they're having a sale, which I don't know how long it's gonna be for. Normally, lifetime is $20, but they're going for $12.99 now.
Ooh,
But I will say this, you can do a lot in the trial mode.
yeah,
It does put a watermark in the middle of your photo, kinda middle center down, and you'll see that on one of my photos. And it says you can save DNG simultaneously or enable non-destructive save to re-edit and save the non-watermark photos after you purchase or subscribe to the app. So
Yep.
that's the
yeah.
extra. But other than that, it really does not, limit you much on what you can do.
Yeah, and you can also import filter. You can import presets from Lightroom, which is interesting, but there is a conversion that you have to put them through. You can import and export custom filters. Dave, I don't know if you've played with the emulations that are built in, but I
Mhm.
think they're
Yeah.
pretty nice and realistic.
Yeah, and it's nice because under settings, in the layout when you're actually taking the picture or editing with it. It only says like FJ0, FJ1, FJ2, but in the settings it actually says inspired by, the Fujifilm 160C-3
Right.
or, other ones like a lot of Fuji, the Kodak Ektar, Elite Chrome. So if you know what those photos kind of have a feeling like, you
Mhm.
can know what other ones, and then there's, other Fuji films available. There's a good amount of filters that they have there.
Yeah, they all render pretty nice.
Yeah, the city filters are a little or can get a little wild though.
Mhm. But I think you can control the intensity or the
Yeah,
opacity on those.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the first one from Photon. Now here's the user interface for Photon Cam.
Yeah, so I just captured this is an 18-hand horse that walked by me the other day. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, this gives you kind of an idea of how the interface looks. You can see at the top, you have an option for HDR on or off. I typically don't shoot with it on. You've got 48 megapixels that you can shoot with. And then I believe that if you use one of the emulations, the output at 48 megapixels still occurs. Y- I have it set to where the output is DNG and HEIF, so I still keep the raw file, but I also keep the HEIF process file with it, with however it renders. So in this case, it would be, just how I took it because I'm on none, right? So if I would have changed it to one of the other presets, then the photo would have looked different.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. See, you can add your own filters here. I think we covered that. Your different looks, right? Dave Film, black
Mhm.
and white
Yeah.
city. You can manage the opacity or the strength of the
Mhm.
filter
With the
prior to the
slider.
shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the slider down below.
yeah.
Yeah. So, lots of choices. And one thing I'm noticing about some of these is in the camera selector that you see at the bottom of the viewfinder there is that you've got the actual 2 times.
Hmm.
Some camera apps still don't have that, like Reflex is
That's
one.
correct.
I would imagine they're going to add that in with their next, big update whenever that may be, because it's something that people are asking for, I think. And it's nice to see that it's built into some of these apps, and some of them, like Mood, for instance, gives you, 3 different choices in each of those camera selectors. So, it's a slight digital zoom, I guess, in some of them.
Yeah,
So,
one
but
aspect
I just noticed.
yeah, yeah, that's good. And one aspect I do not like is the shutter button kind of gets small and moved over to the right. That white button there
Yeah.
off to the right. It's a little kind of funky to work with, but it's not
Now,
unmanageable.
if you were to close off your filters, would it return to that
I
bottom
believe it
center?
would. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
so.
believe so. Yes, it does.
And this
Yep.
Okay.
is your list of filters and whatnot.
Yeah, it just gives you an idea. So I imported a custom filter there. So I had a cube file that I brought in, the Agfa Color 160, which is just something that I had in a file. So it was very easy to import. I haven't really tested how it renders on this, but FJ10. I think David mentioned this. You can see what it emulates next to it. So what we're seeing here are Fuji emulations, and then you
Mhm.
can tag them. It's really customizable, which is kind of nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't often see tagging
Hmm.
in a camera app. Or so what that does, I'm assuming, Dwight, is it'll put a hashtag in the photo. So if you want to find, say you tagged it with Agfa Color 160.
Hmm.
So in your Photos app, if you typed in the tag
Hmm.
for that filter, it would just find it?
Well, I'm not sure. I haven't played with that yet. I think it's either that or it'll categorize them here on in the app. So, maybe
Oh, yeah.
if it's a
Yeah.
cinematic or something like that, you can.
Yeah, because in Apple Photos, if you're just looking at a picture you took with the Apple camera, you can put a keyword in it.
Yeah.
And I find I've done that before sometimes, say, with the dog's name or something. I might keyword a whole bunch of them with the dog's name, and then if I wanna find the dog, pictures of the dog, I just type in the dog's name and bang, there they are.
So here it is right here.
So
So, Greg, so it already has filter tags applied to the ones that are in there. and you can see it right above the emulation name. So you can see the FJ0 is
Oh,
under film,
okay. So
and there's
they've been tagged
yep, there's
film.
4 black and whites, and there's,
Okay.
7 city. So the filter tags serve as categories you define to quickly find specific filters in the camera and the editor. So I would think that that would be the native
Okay.
editor in the app. And I don't know if it necessarily
Yeah.
carries over to the Apple Photos.
Right. Okay. So Dave, you've got a few
Yeah,
here. So you put this one in for
right.
reference.
So that is just the built-in camera app. Now, I did do edits on here, so this isn't just straight out of the camera, but this is if you zoom into the center part of this art piece there, you can see how clear and crisp all the stems for the leaves, for lack of what it is, how very crisp they are, and how even some of even some of the branches close to it are very crisp. And I think that's part of what we're talking about is how it's making everything very, very crisp. And a lot of times to get a nice feeling about it, the crispness can take it away.
And it has that noise
Yeah.
reduction too, right?
Yeah.
Where everything looks like smooth as a baby's cheek type of thing,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So folks watching the YouTube video here, and by all means check the show notes once they're posted on Wednesday. All these pictures will be in there, and you can have another look at them, and you'll probably get a better look at them than what you would see on the video here. But this is what we were talking about when we're mentioning how, we're not overly happy with the rendering that the Apple camera does to our pictures. Again, it's, maybe we're edge cases, I don't know, but after doing this for a long time and seeing how the camera app has evolved over the years and the processing and everything that it does, sometimes we just want something different. So this is one that you did in No Fusion.
Right. Yeah. And so you can see I put the different filters in because and I also imported it into Snapseed to do some raw editing on here. That's where the border comes from. But you can see
Right.
where, the center part where it was like very crisp, very sharp in the Apple camera. Here, it looks more like a traditional camera where you won't get that over sharpness going on.
And it looks like there's a little grain as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 And that is
Yeah.
beautiful.
But I understand why Apple, again, we talked about Apple 90/90.
Yeah.
You're hitting 90% of the people
Mhm.
and you're hitting the reviewers because we all know reviewers love to take a photo, zoom it into a ridiculous amount, and then, oh, this is a 10x zoom, and I can actually read the letter 10x away. Like, yeah, but you shouldn't, it's not designed to do that, but okay. And then they say, but I can do it on this camera, but I can't do it on the Apple camera. And so I understand from a business reason why Apple does it.
Yeah.
But you can see
100%.
this have a little bit of a softer feel for it, just and a little bit more like a photo that you would take.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the grain, the lack of smoothness, this looks so much better to me. So much better than the Apple camera. By God, folks, you got to see these images. Go to the Facebook page after they're posted on Wednesday and have a look and compare.
Yeah.
And you'll see what we mean. And I mean, yes, Facebook's going to crunch them a bit more, but you'll still get the picture. You'll see what we mean. I see more detail in this than I did in the one from the Apple camera, which sounds kind of funny because the Apple camera sharpens more, but it's that noise reduction and that,
Mhm.
deep fusion stuff that goes on. It's all that stuff that I find is taking away from the image. This gives it character.
Yeah.
And I really like this, Dave. I really like the edit on this. It looks it has more of a mood to it,
Mhm.
right? Than it did before. And then so finally you did one here in Photon
Yeah.
Cam.
And this is the built-in frame, and you can customize the frame. So you can see down below it just says photon down shot on photon cam, and it has some of the f-stop and the focal length. You can add additional things down below. You can see very very similar. This was all edited inside a photon cam, and I did make another a frame that actually added the name of the filter. So it'll be easier to go look back on and say, "Okay, what did I do to take this picture?"
Yeah, yeah, it gives
Right
you all
there
the
on it.
exposure details and stuff,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
And again, this one, it has a different feel from the other
Mhm.
one, but again, it does have a nice feel to it in term
mhm.
and I hate to say, back in the early days of Instagram, everyone was putting borders on their photos
Yes.
and over processing because it wasn't as right. And I think I like the way photos look with a border. And I think it's got such a bad name because of Instagram 15 years ago that you rarely see. And like on this border here, it isn't just a border, but it has a shadow
It's a
to
shadow
it.
box, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it makes it look like it's, you have that three-dimensional look to it. And it may be
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
the fact that growing up, most photos you got growing up had some kind of border or the way the camera was developed, it had like a vignette that had a border-like feel to it,
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
kinda it framed it. And so it gave you a frame to the photo.
yep.
One thing I do like about Photon Cam is it does shoot live photos.
Yes.
And it'll save it live. So even though and that's including after you put a frame on it and edit it. So
Yeah, I noticed that when I was looking at yours in our shared album, I pressed on it. Yeah, that's definitely a live photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and
pretty
it
cool.
and it's not like I said, I like the live photos, especially when you have like this is like I said, it's supposed to be a piece of art that looks like a flower, but it also is it moves. It's a wind, not wind chime, but it moves with the wind.
Mhm.
So it spins with the wind. So when you get something moving like that, having that little, oh, I like it a half a second before or half a second after because of whatever's happening with the live photo, that makes a big help.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can pick your keyframe.
One thing you might notice on this one compared to the other one is that it is a lot smoother, but you have the flexibility to add grain back into it if you want.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just real quick here, Will says he's never played with filters and presets, far too many choices. That is so true, Will. That's why some of this could be uninteresting or intimidating for some people, but you know what? There's so much to play with, so many things to try. It's you can I don't think you could ever get bored doing this kind of thing.
I need Will as
There's so
my
many different.
Yeah.
sponsor for my application addiction.
Yes. Uh,
But no, I 100% understand because there were apps out there where I downloaded it and I liked them, but it was an option of like 200 different, presets or filters you could add to it. And I'm like, you got to give me some categorization or something that's common sense because I'm not, I can pick a favorite, but that's like I said, sometimes it's just way too much.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, Dwight, you've taken a Pro Raw here straight out of the camera,
This isn't the Pro Raw
and
photo
you've
though,
done.
Greg. This
Oh,
this
isn't
is
it?
a processed one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I think we can
Um,
still speak to it. So, in defense of Apple, you can still take a Pro Raw photo. You can go into Lightroom, you can change the profile. You can either go to a neutral profile, which takes all the sharpening out, and then you build your contrast back up and into the scene that you like. And in this case, this is what I did here. And I think I left the Pro Raw profile for this one in Lightroom, but I reduced the tone mapping to 50%, which took a lot of that
uh,
processing out of it. And then I had to build my tonal values back up, but you can see that it looks soft. So this is acceptable, right? But it saves out as a JPEG, which is fine. But there are options using the native camera.
yeah. The file name that you had on this was straight out of the camera, so that's why I kinda wondered if this was the one that was straight out of the
Well,
camera.
it's a JPEG, and that's
Um,
why I'm thinking that it was something that I worked on and saved out as a JPEG. So
okay.
you
Yeah,
probably have
it
the
could
Pro
be.
Raw in there, and you probably have the neutral profile one that I worked on as well.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's have a look at the
Yeah.
this is the neutral?
Yep. So this is the neutral profile, and what I've noticed here is that the aloe flowers maintain more of the natural light. It really took a lot of that sharpening out of it. I mean, it was nice, and I just kinda built it up to, how I wanted to after I applied the profile. But I think that looks pretty natural.
Yeah, like, it's definitely not crunchy, like that there's that crunchy word again.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just not it's just
and
not
it
the
looks like
analog look, and we've talked about analog, apps. We don't necessarily have to have an analog look. This is just, a pro raw file that we have that I have manipulated to make it look a little bit more natural. Then
right.
of course, I can
Yeah.
apply, color grading or whatever I wanted to do to that, from this point.
Yeah, yeah. And the water doesn't look as I'm gonna say it again,
Yeah.
crunchy. The water doesn't look as, crisp, I guess. I'm trying to find different words here instead of repeating myself over and over again. But the water looks a little bit
Doesn't
smoother,
look like sandpaper.
which is a little more
Yeah.
natural, right?
Yeah. That's how it looks in real life. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my
for sure.
goal when I'm editing Pro Raw is just I think that's kind of the art is to bring it back to how you remember the scene.
Yeah. Okay, so then
Now, Greg, before we move on,
yeah.
Scott Baker in the YouTube chat said he really does like 30-second filters. So that may be able to fix a lot of what we have with a 30-second filter.
He could be onto something because if you take a if you take a shot for 30 seconds, then, there could be ever so slight
That'll
movement
soften it.
in there that will soften it up a bit. I mean, if you don't think you're gonna get the result you want, just give your tripod a little bump on the leg, and then it'll be as soft can be. So, yeah, you're onto something there, Scott. You should patent that. Well, Mr. Baker, hope you're not getting too much snow out there. So, what do we got here? There we go. Yeah, so this one has in the file name the tone map at 50.
Okay, so
But
this was the Pro Raw.
yeah,
So one of these photos is the Pro Raw file that hasn't been modified, but it has been because I did export it and it had to be a JPEG. So yeah, so this is the one that
yeah,
I reduced the tone mapping down to 50% and build it back up. So I'm sorry, everybody.
yeah.
I'm just a little bit confused. So I think the one prior to this was either the original or the one where I used the neutral profile.
Oh, I think the first one was the
Okay.
original because it said straight out of the
Okay.
camera on the
Yeah.
file name. Yeah.
So if we go back to that one, Greg, if we go back to that first one, maybe we can take a look at the water. Yeah. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit more crunchy there. And if you go on to the next one,
Yeah, it's got that deep fusion thing
yeah,
going
and you
on.
can't really see it with how it's rendering here, but you'll be able to see it in the Facebook group.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely a difference, you know, based on what you've done here, like taking the tone mapping down. So just to kinda explain to people what that does exactly, because if anybody's never heard of it before
Y-
or wants to try it, let them know what they're
Yeah, so if you're
kinda
if you're in
doing.
Lightroom and you open a Pro Raw file, it'll default to the Pro Raw profile. And then there's a slider above it that you can move to the left. You can take it all the way off, or you can move it down to 50. You can put it wherever you want, which will reduce some of the processing that has occurred to the photo. So you have an opportunity to do that there. The farther left you take it, the tougher it is to develop your photo, with the tones and the colors and all that stuff. So I brought it down to 50, which softened it up, and then I just needed some help with, getting the tones back.
And, as far as editing apps that can do that, Lightroom can do it.
Mhm.
Darkroom used to have that feature, but they took it out for some
They took
reason.
the tone mapping out. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
contacted the developers a few times, and I haven't gotten any response, but Darkroom's got some nice film emulations on there now and a community that shares them. So,
yeah,
that's an option of, bringing your photos in there if you have that program and throwing an emulation on there.
yeah, yeah.
Now, let me ask real quick. When you're talking Lightroom, you're talking the desktop only,
Nope,
right?
this is available on mobile as well. And I believe it's even available on the free version.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
that's
Yeah.
why I was double checking.
Yep.
Okay,
So
okay.
to get to that, Dave, in Lightroom Mobile, you've got your tool set down across the bottom. You got your light settings, color settings, all that stuff. What you don't see is, and you have to slide to the left to bring it
Yep.
out, is profiles.
Yep.
And then when you get to the profiles, you'll see if it's an Apple Pro RAW file, you'll see it'll say Apple Pro RAW, and there'll be a slider above it, and it'll be generally I think it's at the halfway mark.
Yep.
So then you could take it full on or take it full off, and that's how you get to that point.
Yes, that's a good point, Greg. You have to slide the toolbar to the left to see the profile
Yeah, because
selected.
I didn't know it was there for a long time. I
Yeah,
didn't
I think
realize
you
it
and I
was even
figured
there.
that one out on a call at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's and the nice thing about that is if you shoot it, like even like a Pro RAW photo, you can change the profile to like Adobe Neutral, Adobe Color,
Hmm.
black and white. There's all these different places that you can start
Hmm.
with your edit, which opens up a lot of options for you.
I don't think you can I don't think you can change it to color profile or standard or any of those other ones and be able to reduce the tone mapping though. I think you can only
Oh,
do that
maybe not.
I think you can only do that on the Pro Raw. That's
Yeah,
something I
yeah, I
should
believe
look
you're
at.
right. Yeah, yeah, you're probably right there. Yeah, so I mean, this basically what we're looking at here, though, with these images, Dwight, is just another way to reduce that
Hmm.
sharpness or that over-sharpening. That's the bane of our discussion here.
Hmm.
So lots of options in this. So today I was out. We took the dogs out for a walk in a local cemetery where there's no traffic, and it was a nice place to walk. And I thought, oh, I better get a couple of pictures for this show. So I took this one with the Apple camera, and just the only thing I did was I adjusted the EV to minus 0.3, just because it was pretty bright. And as you can see, to me it looks over sharpened. You can I should say too that I downsize all these images for the video here, just so that they could be ready to go on the Facebook page. But anyway, there's just so much over sharpening going on that you can see it in this snow here on these trees.
Hmm.
It's one thing to have detail, but it's another thing to have too much detail where you really don't want it. I can see a little bit of haloing around this gravestone here, around the edges. I don't
Yeah,
know
details look
if it's,
unrealistic.
yeah, right? So obviously I didn't get much of a chance to see what I captured at the time because I've got a dog pulling on a leash and it's freezing cold. The dog's feet are getting cold. We weren't going to keep them out too long anyway, but so I had to kind of rush to take these two pictures. So there was this one, and then the one I took with Mood. And you know what? I just used whatever it was set at. I didn't look for a specific emulation or whatever. I just held it up, took the shot, and that was it. So I believe this one was analog. I can tell you as soon as I open it, it'll be there. It's analog, and the quality is 200. So I think that's like the ISO, and the tone was set to Pro. So it's a little crunchier than I would like it, but that's just where it was when I took the picture. And I just wanted to illustrate that, when you zoom in on this one, you don't see that haloing around that stone. You don't see the over crunchiness of the detail in the snow on the tree. I mean, this looks like an old photograph now.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. And again, I just did this for illustration purposes for the show. I didn't do this to keep the photo for anything because that's not one of my favorite film sims. But I mean, I do like so much better how it renders the sharpness or lack thereof of the image. To me, it just looks more natural, and I'm using the Apple camera less and less. That's all I could say, because all these other apps are just giving me much more pleasing results. So then I dug out a couple from the archives from last winter when there was a ship docked for the winter, and this is the bridge or whatever, And look at all the denoising that it's done, because it's a night shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's denoised the heck out of this thing. And just before I go too much further, my cousin Michelle's in the house. She says about that cemetery picture, she was just going to say it makes the photo look like it was taken in the 70s. Exactly. That's exactly what I thought.
Mm-hmm. And that's the intention of the app.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's made to take you back in time. It's made to look like film. But this one here, I mean, I was so disappointed when this was a 48 megapixel file too, by the way. So I zoomed it in without going beyond 100% to evenly match the next one here that I'm going to show you. But this one here, it has, it's clear, but it's too clear for me. It's really lacking in it's lacking in good detail. It's got lots of detail, but it's lacking in good detail for me. It's just, I don't know. It's that noise reduction upon noise reduction that just drives me nuts with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I go to the one that I took with Mood last year, it is so much better. Like,
Yep.
look at that. It's, again, audio listeners, you got to go to the Facebook page and check these out, because the detail looks a lot more natural. The grain, Dwight, you've always said there's grain, or there's detail in grain.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly the case here. I mean, I don't know. It's just such a much better photo in my opinion. So
Yeah, and by the way, this mood camera is really taken off. People are
yes.
just Alex has done a great job. We've had him on the show, and man, you look at the Reddit feed and all that stuff on it. This thing is just taken off. Some people have put their Fuji cameras down.
Yeah. Yeah. Michelle says much softer look looks way better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Michelle, she shoots with an iPhone sometimes, but she's got a Canon R5 Mark II.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, you want to see detail. I can tell you about detail with that thing, but that's another podcast. But this Mood camera, I'm going to start exploring it more, because I've got, doing this podcast, there's so many things to talk about. I don't get a chance to really dive into them too much, but I'm going to dive into Mood a lot more. Now, Mood is the one where, Dwight, you said that you don't get to see the preview,
Mm-hmm.
but you got all these recipes.
Yeah, and that's never going to change. A lot of people will complain that they don't see the preview, but Alex is not going to change that, because he wants to keep it the way this analog shooting used to be, back in the olden days, where you had to wait for, your photo to be developed. He's
Yeah.
also put together on his website a link to a bunch of custom emulations that people have made that he really likes, and he's put them up there, and you can get the recipe. You have to create them on your own on your phone, but the app now does have a backup utility. So if you have a bunch of custom apps in there, you can back it up. So if you ever have to reinstall the app, you can restore it and it comes right back, all your custom emulations. I think I've probably got about 30 custom emulations outside of the native ones that are in the app. It's too much, but I'm really trying to narrow it down to, maybe a couple, like maybe Cinestill 800 for cinematic night, just different things. But you can create your own emulation, and if Alex likes it, he's gonna put it up on his website.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the subreddit. So I'm going to try to put as many links as I can in for these apps in the show notes. As you can see in the description on YouTube, folks, it says, app list to be updated or whatever. That's because I didn't have time to get them ahead of time. But as I edit the audio, I will make notes of the ones we want and put them in the show notes. And if there's a subreddit for that app, I'll put the subreddit link in there too, because these subreddits are full of people who are using these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, some of them are much more knowledgeable than others, probably much more knowledgeable than me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good. It's just another great resource for learning about these apps and what they can do. And when they share the presets, things like that, that's where the value comes from the subreddit. So,
While we're on this topic, I want to mention just really quick that somebody found an old iPhone 4S. Obviously it's not being supported anymore, but they were able to turn this thing on and take photos with this thing, and they were amazing. There was no processing. There was natural grain. It was unbelievable.
wasn't in a bar, was it?
No, these were
Yeah,
street.
Dave got that one.
Yeah, these were street photos, and they really, really look nice.
Oh yeah, well that's cool.
Weren't in a bar. I didn't get that one. I'll work on that.
Okay, so it actually goes back to the iPhone 4, where somebody from Apple mistakenly left the new prototype iPhone before it was even
Oh,
released
that's right. Yeah.
in the bar.
Yeah.
And then Steve Jobs in the keynote, when he was talking about, the new iPhone 4, he says, "Tell me if you've heard this," because he knew it happened. I mean, they sent people to the guy's door. I think the guy was a reporter for some tech website or something. I'm not 100% sure on the details, but Steve Jobs was able to make a joke out of it, at least, by the time the keynote came out.
after getting the police involved, and it was a giant legal mess too.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. I mean, that was a big, big design change, going from the 3GS to the 4 like that. But anyway, so, well, I mean, I hope we've given people some more food for thought on these apps and, what they're capable of. And if you do get tired of that, I'm going to say it again, the crunchy look of the Apple photos, there's options. There's plenty of options. And I can't reiterate enough that it's not that the Apple camera takes bad pictures. It doesn't. It just sometimes takes pictures that are too good for their own good. Like they're too clear. They do a little too much to denoise them and things like that. So, and of course, photography is subjective, right? Some people love what these pictures produce, but we're obviously at the point where otherwise we wouldn't be doing this show. But we're at the point where we want to see something a little different. And I mean, and of course, like last week, I think we talked a bit about, the editing can change the look of a photo. And Dave, your abstract was case in point, where you had a happy little accident. You have no idea how it got taken. So you just threw everything at it. And it's one of those ones you throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And it came out pretty cool. So if a camera app isn't your method of choice for trying to get rid of the over-sharpening, then try editing apps like, watercolor, painting, that sort of thing, and see what you can come up with. So, all right. Well, guys.
And it's really nice. Oh, real quick, I was going to say, one thing that's really nice is, and I understand what Will's saying about almost having too many choices.
Yeah.
Because you really want to make it as easy as possible. A lot of times if you're taking a photo and you're like, I want to take a photo now versus, well, which camera app should I take? There are times you go out there and you're like, okay, I'm in the forest or I'm in a city. And it's like, okay, which camera app would be best for this? And there's times where it's like, oh my, there's a sunset. I need to take a picture now because if I wait 3 minutes, it's gone.
Yes.
But that is one of the strengths of the iPhone and Apple's the whole ecosystem is that we do have all these choices. And the nice thing is you don't need, you can see a lot of these apps are not like, oh, we have 50 million users. They are smaller apps for a smaller group, but there's enough people, there's billions of people using iPhones that you can have an app here, where that is one thing where you hear people who, like I've heard, and it's been a couple of years since Mark Sadowski said this, he said, I like some of the stuff on Android, I like some of the cameras on Android, but there's no third-party apps. You have either the built-in Google app, camera app, or if let's say you have a Samsung camera app, but you don't have like we see here, 6, 7, 10 different choices of third-party apps that are made by these smaller developers and can do these very niche things that, you just don't have that ability in the Android scheme, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a strength here.
And Dave, you make a good point of trying to figure out which app to use, because I'm so far down the rabbit hole. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll shoot with, I'll get to a scene and I'll shoot with all of those. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'll shoot with all of them.
Well, I So, like, when I got my new iPhone back in September, I didn't put any extra apps in other than what came with it, and then I just started putting them in as I go.
Mhm.
And lately, it's been growing a little faster than normal. Just finding, little things that I wanna try. Oh, I need that app. Okay, I better put that back in. But, no, it's a lot of fun, and, there's so much to do that it just helps keep this podcast going, and this podcast wouldn't be possible without you guys, the listeners, and for anybody that supports the show financially or otherwise, we thank you. Can't thank you enough for that, and I don't know, I just wanna go play again with some of these apps. Too bad it's nighttime here, but maybe tomorrow, if it's not storming, maybe I'll get out and try to get a few more pictures. So,
Please like and subscribe too, and share our, podcast with others.
Mhm.
yeah, by all means, yeah,
Please, yeah.
that's something I keep forgetting to say. Hit that like button so that more people might have a chance to see it. And again, there's a link to our Facebook page in the show notes. It may be under website, iphonography.ca. That will take you to the Facebook page. That's where the show notes are. So if you want to have a better look at these images that you've seen on the screen tonight, that's where you'll find them, and you'll be able to get a better idea of what we're talking about and why we mention it. So on that note, thanks everybody for watching live. Appreciate it. And I guess we'll see everybody in the next one.
Have a good one, everybody.
Be safe, everyone.
Good show, Greg.
Yeah, you too, guys.